This tribute is in honor of a monumental figure in human history. The very woman who sowed the seeds of humanity was revered as a deity, and as early as her reign as the fifth pharaoh of unified Egypt, shattered conventions by becoming the first female head of state. This woman who once helmed empires and commanded armies, now confronts numerous adversities. We salute the African woman, with hopes to rejuvenate her diminished glory. Although women constitute more than half of Africa's population, they are frequently marginalized, often regarded as subordinate. With a few notable exceptions such as Rwanda, across much of the continent, women face systemic inequalities. Predominant family codes place men in dominant positions. Women face challenges in inheritance rights, are victims of domestic violence, and are largely excluded from pivotal roles in politics, economy, and religious institutions. How can we address these disparities? By revisiting and understanding African traditions, we can propose tangible solutions. Embracing the wisdom of the past. The principle of equality and complementarity encapsulates the core African perspective on gender dynamics. African philosophies traditionally arise from keen observations of the natural and social world. Our forebears, through their profound understanding of nature and society, recognize the interconnectedness of all things and the complementary roles each entity plays. At the heart of these observations is the recognition of the woman's unparalleled capability to bring forth life. Traditional African views honor women for their unique creative prowess, an ability even greater than that of a man who contributes his seed. Men and women have historically been perceived as contrasting yet complementary forces. Women, often seen as consistent and loyal, symbolize stability. Men, characterized by their dynamic energy and physical might, embody expansion. Consequently, women serve as the steadfast foundation or backbone of society. Ancient wisdom suggests that societal structures should be grounded on the strengths of women, with men safeguarding this established order with their vigor. This understanding paved the way for matriarchy, a societal system where women lead and their position is safeguarded by men. Such a setup has been predominant throughout much of Africa's history. In this context, African women were entrusted with the responsibility of upholding the sanctity of power, maintaining its continuity, and ensuring its harmony with the natural order. In traditional African societies, power is vested in the woman, and it is her son, the ruler, who acts on this authority. This power is inherited by her daughter, whose son in turn wields it, creating a lineage of female-centered power succession. The king governs in concert with his mother and sister, upholding and safeguarding their authority. When he passes away, the mantle is taken up by his sister's son, his maternal nephew. In true African tradition, the primary male figure in a child's life is not the father but the mother's brother. As the custodian of the throne, the queen mother possesses the authority to dethrone her son or even command him to take his life if he gravely betrays his people. Balancing ceremonial and executive roles, she stands as the state's most eminent figure. Across Africa's rich cultures, the queen mother is revered with various titles. Mutensut in ancient Egypt, Kandak in Pharaonic Sudan, Linger in Senegal's Wolof nation, Asante Hima in the Ashanti kingdom, Madaki Magadia among the Hausa, Mefo in Cameroon's Bamalik realms, Majira in Kanam Bornu, near Lake Chad, Namaso in Buganda, and Namwari in Zimbabwe's Mwin Mutapa Empire, among others. Matriarchy in Africa isn't a sheer domination of women over men. Rather, it represents a balanced dualism, a partnership willingly embraced by both sexes to establish a more stable society. Here, everyone thrives, aligning with tasks that best suit their physiological disposition. Contrary to the notion of matriarchy being forced upon men, it is, in fact, a system they willingly accept and uphold. In Africa, worth is ascertained by one's character and inherent biological roles, not merely by physical might. For Africa to reclaim its dignity and balanced view on gender roles, it must re-immerse itself in its ancestral understanding of gender value. It is imperative for African men to once again stand as true defenders of women, embodying their authentic African heritage. promoting gender equality in political frameworks. It's imperative to embed the unwavering principle of gender equality within the constitutions of African nations. Traditional systems, as seen in Yoruba-Fan, Ashanti, and to some extent in Congo, provide key insights. In these ancient societies, leadership was exercised with the collaboration of both a male assembly and a female assembly. This is a gender-based bicameral system. In each African nation, a dual assembly system should be instituted, one exclusively for men and the other solely for women. Both assemblies should have equal representation and influence, tasked with validating governmental decisions. Such a structure ensures that women can actively participate in advocating for their interests and in shaping societal directions. During general elections, constituents from every electoral district would elect both a female and a male representative to their national assemblies. Championing equality in spiritual practices. The focus here is on African spirituality. It's important to acknowledge that Islam and Christianity, while influential, are inherently patriarchal and not of African origin. We shouldn't aim to alter these religions. However, there's a growing movement advocating for the revival of ancestral religious practices, and this momentum must prioritize uplifting women in the spiritual realm. Historically in Africa, women had the opportunity to serve at all tiers of religious institutions, and in some instances, they even assumed the topmost religious leadership roles. Examples include the Black Republic of Carthage, the ancient Hausa, or the Ashanti community in Jamaica. There were even beliefs where women were seen as representing the dominant facet of the divine, as observed among the Sira people in Senegal with Rug, the Hausa with Are or Rana, or the Vodun spiritual practices in Benin with Mawu. The resurgence of vitalism, or animism, must honor the gender equality championed by our forebears. As this doctrine undergoes modern reinterpretation, it's imperative to embed this principle of gender equality. Educate girls for autonomy, not just matrimony. We train girls to aim for marriage, while boys aren't indoctrinated the same way. This disparity results in girls growing into women whose primary concern becomes marriage. In contrast, boys mature into men less concerned with this institution. So, when these women marry these men, the union begins on an imbalanced note, as it holds differing significance for each. Is it surprising then that in many marital relationships, women often make more sacrifices, to their detriment, as they navigate this unequal dynamic? This sentiment is captured eloquently by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, a renowned Nigerian author and feminist, hailed as one of the most influential writers of our time. Many men might not grasp the full extent of it, but currently in Africa, from a young age, women grapple with significant social vulnerabilities. The prevailing message to young girls is, "Your brother will inherit property, while you must marry to have any." Such statements make marriage appear to young women as the pinnacle of societal achievement, rather than what it ideally should be, a union representing the harmonious coming together of two souls, a delightful connection between two individuals who emotionally complete each other. Consequently, numerous women end up valuing the institution of marriage more than their spouses, leading some to endure all kinds of maltreatment just to preserve their marital status. The prevailing sentiment is that a woman must persevere in her marriage, no matter the cost. Marriage, meant to symbolize joy, now often represents endless sacrifices. Some husbands, sensing this societal pressure on their wives, might exploit it to emotionally, and at times physically, harm them. Furthermore, an African woman, no matter her professional accomplishments, is frequently perceived as lesser if she isn't married. If she hasn't secured the approval of a man through marriage, her value is questioned, which is inherently unjust. This undue pressure on women to marry is unwarranted and needs to be eradicated. Practically speaking, it's vital to empower women with education, aiming for financial self-sufficiency and ambition. Drawing inspiration from ancient Egyptian practices, inheritance should be equally shared among all siblings, not just sons. Marriage should be promoted as a loving partnership between two souls, not as a mere means for women to attain property. Reimagining roles together. Historically, the woman's act of breastfeeding a child marked her as the nurturer in society, responsible for food and nutrition. This pivotal role amplified her significance, likely leading to the cultural association of women with cooking. Initially, this wasn't seen as a mere chore but rather a meaningful and esteemed responsibility deeply rooted in philosophy. Conversely, men took on other household responsibilities. In ancient Egypt, while women would shop at the markets, men engaged in weaving. This division of tasks between genders became a structured norm in traditional African societies. Even today, a man cooking in many African households is viewed with skepticism. This isn't because the act is demeaning for the man, but more due to the perception that it infringes upon the woman's traditional role and diminishes her value. How relevant is this traditional division of roles in contemporary times? It's a question worth pondering. The way forward might be open dialogues between men and women, reassessing and reshaping these roles collectively. This isn't about rigidly enforcing who should do what within a household. Instead, each couple should have the freedom to decide what works best for them. Reviving the legacy and moving forward. The tradition of a child's primary guardian being the mother's brother has waned over time. With the father now central in African familial structures, reverting to the uncle's pivotal role seems impractical. However, to honor the illustrious legacy of African matriarchy and ensure its spirit continues, we suggest that the chairperson of the Council of Elders, the paramount authority above the president and dual parliaments, should always be a woman. We hope you found today's journey into African history enlightening.